Hey guys, Wages World here. It is June the 15th, 2020, and I'm gonna come at you with a video. Yeah, yesterday I made a mistake and about the time zones when I was talking about the Schumann. So I'm gonna make a correction on that. We'll talk about that here in just a second. And you know how I figured that out was a subscriber called me out on it in the comment section, and that's exactly what I want you guys to do. Okay. If I make a mistake, let me know because I don't want to continue to make the same mistake. Now, the mistake I made was I already knew the mistake, so as soon as they said it, I knew exactly what they were saying. For whatever reason, I brained it. But we'll talk about that here in just a second. But also, there's another CME, guys, off the backside of the sun. We're going to talk about that. It looks like there's some action going to the right of us also. But also there's a few other things that we need to talk about regarding the CME stuff, and we're actually crossing over what they call the current sheet, and that's going to be happening tomorrow, I believe. And with that, we might see some geomagnetic activity that we typically wouldn't see, except for when we do cross over that sheet. Now, again, we'll talk about that here in a second. But I just wanted to give you a little update here, a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. So there you go. Okay, guys, we'll talk about the correction here real quick. This is the comment that was left, and this is exactly how it should be done. Okay, just to let you guys know. When somebody comes at me with a correction and being very respectful, or just, you don't have to like sugarcoat it or nothing. That's not what I'm saying. Just don't be disrespectful. Like, hey, I know more than you. Da 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 da. Right? Because there's a whole lot of people in this world that know a whole lot more than me. I already know that. But if you're respectful in the way that you give a correction or just point out an error or whatever, I usually typically go ahead and pin that comment and make that correction if I think you're correct in what you're saying. And in this case, they are most certainly correct. We were talking about the Schumann yesterday, and I was trying to say, I was showing you the time frame of when those spikes were happening. Well, they're exactly right in what they say here. All due respect, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're 12 hours off interpreting the graph, and they're correct. Okay? So in other words, let me take you over to the Schumann and show you what we're talking about here. And but just know, I pinned this to the last of my video. Actually, you can see my highlighted reply there. I do appreciate that. I don't want to continue to be wrong if I'm wrong. So just so you guys know, this is how I handle it. This is usually how it works for me anyway. Hopefully you guys are comfortable enough with, just jumping out there in the comment section and saying, hey, listen, man, I think what you said might have been incorrect or whatever. And if it's done in a respectful way, I most certainly will address it almost every time. If I do think that you're still incorrect in what you're saying, I will also point that out in a polite way. There's no sense in being hateful and stuff, and I get it. I know that some of that stuff's just going to happen. I mean, it's just what it is. People just want to be unhappy and hateful. But you're not going to get that from me, and you won't get a response from me either if you're like that. But if somebody comes at me like this with a correction, I most certainly will address it, and I very much appreciate it, because this is what we're looking for, guys. We're looking for the correct information. We're looking for the truth. And when, if I make a mistake like this and I'm pointed, hey, this is why, this is how, this is why I think you're wrong. This person here, if you go ahead and you read the rest of this comment, they've been watching this graph for over 4 years. So they've been looking at it longer than I have. So, that's a little bit more experience than what I have. So of course I'm going to take what they say seriously. And, that's how this works. Even if they only been looking at it for 15 minutes, if they're correct in what they're saying, I'm going to come out and say it. So there you have that. I'll take you over to Schumann to show you exactly what we're talking about, the 12-hour thing. Okay, guys. This right here is yesterday's Schumann. This is today's. Okay. First thing I would point out here is that we are definitely still seeing a spike around the same time frame. Okay. It may not be completely solid like this one is over here, but it most certainly did happen roughly around the same time, guys. So, that's happening. So yesterday, what they were talking about as far as being off on the time frame, I was basically 12 hours off. Okay, so if you look at the time, basically I was trying to say that the time that these spikes were happening were when that part of the earth was actually facing the sun, and I was wrong. It's the exact opposite, which even brings in a lot more questions here. Okay, so if we're getting these spikes when we're not facing the sun, most likely the source is not the sun that's changing this. It would have to be something behind us, coming from behind on the dark side. So, that causes a whole nother set of questions. You have to wonder what the heck is going on. But again, it could be something here on the planet also causing the frequency change at this time. And again, we still have to always keep in mind that I really think that a lot of this is being done intelligently. In other words, it's not a natural occurrence. It's something that's being done on purpose. I think that probably 75 to 80% of what we see on this thing is being done on purpose. It isn't something that is something natural that we would just anticipate happening just, without any kind of manipulation. I think it's being manipulated that's how I look at it. Okay. People are welcome to have a whole different view, and I really appreciate all those views. But for me, guys, I really think that a lot of what we see on this thing is being manipulated in a way that can either help or hurt or both. And it can also be a way of communicating. I think all of that applies here. I really do. Plus, there are natural occurrences that do affect this. That's a fact. If there's a bunch of thunderstorms in the area of these detectors, it will pick it up. And that's something that we do look at. But when you have multiple ones every day for a while at the same time, you're not having thunderstorms every day at the same time. Okay, so when that starts happening like that, it's not a thunderstorm. Just so you know. But anyway, that's what's going on with that. That's the correction. So in other words, instead of being on the day side when we're having these spikes, it's actually on the night side. That actually raises a whole lot of different questions. In my opinion now, I said yesterday, well, maybe it is a natural occurrence because the sun's always there. Well, there's a whole lot of things behind us. It's not the sun. Okay, so I don't know that that's a natural occurrence now. I do think that it may be something that is, again, being done intelligently. So here's today, okay? And again, guys, there's still spikes all over the place. They're short-lived today, but they're still there. So whatever's going on is still going on. So that's what I would say to that. Also, guys, just to touch on this for a second one more time. Comet Atlas, I forgot to mention that, yesterday, that it broke up into a bunch of different pieces, okay? The core of it did break up into, dozens of pieces from the way I understand it. But they hung close enough together that it did look like one core, one ice ball, basically. But they are different pieces, okay? But they're so close together, and they're still traveling together, and they probably will continue to do so. We'll probably never ever have to talk about this comet again, because once it's on its way out, we'll never see it again in our lifetime. So, take that for what it's worth. But this thing did put on a show. That's for sure. It did some things that they didn't expect it to do. Then they started saying it was going to do this on one end of it, and it actually did the opposite. Then it broke up, and then this and that. A whole bunch of different things. If anything that we've learned from this, in my opinion, is that comets are very, very unpredictable, especially as they get closer to the sun and start interacting with more and more solar wind. Okay? And they did say that was one of the reasons these things are unpredictable. As they get closer to it ain't so much about the heat. Okay, I know people think heat and ice and it causes a whole lot of issues. Yes, that is part of the issue. But it's also the charged particle end of it. Okay? There's friction being involved here. There's all kinds of different things that are happening. That's why you get a comet tail anyway. Okay? That's why it's blowing the direction that it is. The solar wind's hitting it and it's blowing it behind it. That's what's going on there. Okay? So, anyway, I just wanted to touch on that and give a little clarification. Okay, guys, got you over at Space Weather again here. And this is something I'll probably show you guys, at least for a minute, about every video for a while here. But what you're seeing, guys, is very, very calm conditions. Okay? Nothing's going on with the X-ray flux. We're not having any flares Earth facing. Again, the proton flux is not doing absolutely anything. Now, this right here we need to talk about again because, you know, this is very low activity. And when we see the low activity, like I said before, geomagnetically, the cosmic ray threat is there. Okay? Now, remember that these rays come in a lot easier on the poles. Okay? They get sucked in a lot easier. And that's always been the case. So when we're running low like this, on the low end of the intensity on our geomagnetic level right here, and what, you know, I get a lot of questions, what raises the geomagnetic activity? Well, usually when we get solar wind streams from coronal holes, or we get CMEs, solar flares, all that solar weather can bump up our geomagnetic activity. Now, on the 16th, we're going to be crossing that current sheath. All that is a section in space is different polarity. Okay, you got to cross over to that section. When we do, sometimes, well, almost every time, we do see a disturbance here geomagnetically here on our planet. So we could, you know, this actually could be good for us in the fact that it could knock us out of the cosmic ray risk for a few. That would be a good thing. Now, we've also seen that when we crossed this sheet before, that it would put us into actual storm levels. I've seen it get us up into 6s before with this. I'm not sure if it's gotten any higher, but even if it does do that, guys, it's probably not going to be a whole lot of issue there. I don't foresee it. Now, I do know that we've been having a lot of, at least here nationally, that there's been a lot of cell phone disruptions today. I'm not sure if it has something to do with if we're getting close to that crossover point or what. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is what we're seeing right here. Maybe that is actually what's happening right now. I really don't know. But you know, the latest reading we got here is actually back on the basement here. Guys, just ignore that. Sorry. But you can see how it raised and went up for a second. Maybe that's when we crossed. I don't know. Maybe we crossed it a little bit earlier than what they thought. I don't know that it's a direct straight line. I don't think that it is. There's got to be a time frame there magnetically. Usually when we're talking about magnetically or what have you, it's not like a direct, straight, hard line that we cross. There's usually a time frame involved that has a variance of when we're going to cross it. It's much like our solar cycles, how we can't just say this day our solar cycle starts. We have to go off of how many sunspots and are facing us and all of that. There's a whole lot of things to go off of when talking about that. My point there is no hard line. There is no specific date that we cross over. So I think that's kind of what's going on here. I think there's a time frame here, but I do think they expect us to cross that either like right now or on the 16th. So just know that that's happening. Now, again, look at the Enlil model here. Okay, they changed it again. Like I said before, every time they get new data, that's what happens. Look, now they're looking for us to stay at about a 6, if not more, on the plasma density. Yesterday, that stuff was, you know, it looked more like this. Okay, that's kind of what it was looking like. So that's why I say, guys, yes, we're going to look at this thing. We can trust it a couple days out. But we cannot trust it any further than that because it's going to change. It's just what it does. All right. You know, I don't know what else to say about that because I don't want to give incorrect information, and that's why I don't go out to 5 days out on this particular graph. So hopefully you guys understand that. Now, okay, here's the ACE data again. Nothing really crazy other than you see the density drop out pretty good there. Okay, dropped out real quick, came back up, dropped out again, did it a couple times, and it's right around that time we were seeing that geomagnetic activity rise here. Okay, so all that stuff's related, just so everybody kind of understands that. Also, the triangle was doing its little flippy flip while it was at the same time. Now again, you know, maybe we were crossing that current sheath. I don't know. If that was exactly what's going on there. We're going to go take a look at the magnetopause models here too, so let's go check that out real quick. Before we do that, though, we'll check out the geoelectric model. This is the geoelectric field model that shows us, space weather conditions and its effect on our electrical grid system. It doesn't look like we're seeing anything too crazy. And this is just like a 2-hour time lapse here. It doesn't go much further than that. I think it is almost like exactly 2 hours. And we can't go back and get archive data on this. This is what I don't like about this model. If we don't see it when it happens, we don't get to see it. And that really sucks. They really should have a database. They probably do. They're just not giving us access to it. So, if anybody knows how to get archive data on this, let me know, because I'd sure love to be able to go look at it. But yeah, nothing crazy going on there, guys. Okay, guys, this is a magnetosphere model. Okay, the sun's over here, obviously, and solar wind's going this way. So that's the viewpoint we're looking at here. Okay, for those of you that don't know, this is our magnetosphere, our magnetic field, basically our shields against space weather. Okay, this is what protects us from radiation, pretty much. We're going to get down to a basic level here. But what you're looking at is, I'm just going to run this through, and we're going to take a look at this this day here. Now, I'm just going to run it through on the slide bar. There's not a whole lot going on. Yes, there's going to be a little spike in here and there, but there's not too much activity. Okay, we are seeing some normal bouncing around now. Oops. Gotta love that, don't you? Sorry about that, guys. All right, got you back. Sorry about that. But anyway, as we roll through this, if I can get the stupid slide bar to work. Yeah, let's okay, there we go. Got it working now. Sorry about that. So as we roll this through here, there's going to be some, intense looking signatures. But this is what we would expect when we get typical solar weather. Okay, we see stuff hit us in the front and it goes on through the back. That's pretty typical. Okay, now what we are seeing right here, if you do see a little bit of something coming off the back, see that right there? All right. Sometimes what happens is we absorb some energy and stuff, and then it does eject out the back of us. That's what happens. And also, this is a two-dimensional model. So a lot of times when we see that what I just showed you guys there, it's actually hitting us and going over top and then going out the back. Okay, as simple as that. It's really nothing to really get too concerned about. The only time we get concerned with this model is when you start seeing this bow shock out here, which is basically our first defense against all that solar stuff. You see it compressing way in, like on the sides, and doing all kinds of crazy shapes. That's when we get concerned. This right here is nothing to be concerned about. It's not to say we shouldn't look at it, because we should. But at the same time, if it's nothing big, we're not going to sit here and make a big deal out of it. This looks pretty normal when we get typical, solar wind weather. And then the other model I was going to show you is right here. This is the actual solar wind model. If you guys ever look at this one, it's over here. See that? That number is a solar wind, kilometers per second. When that's inside, let's just say 300 to 500, that's pretty normal. Anything outside of that, we would consider a little bit either elevated or low. So when we see the oranges and stuff, you're going to see stuff. Again, the sun's off to the right, guys. Okay? So we're seeing like little waves come in, but even those waves are not pushing our solar wind up, hardly at all. Which is telling me that most likely, because you've seen that, I think it got up to like 600. Yesterday it got up to like a 700, which is still not that fast. But as we're learning more and more, the density is where it's at. Okay? We can have very low solar wind speed, but if we have high dense material, high dense particles hitting us, it will still give us a geomagnetic storm. And we've noticed that there's been people writing papers, official scientists that got degrees and things, peer-reviewed papers and stuff on this. And it's becoming more and more accepted that density is probably more important than the actual wind speed itself. It seems to have more of an effect on us. That's all I'm saying. So, anyway, there's that. Okay, guys, once again, we have a CME. This is like 3 of them in like 2 days. And most of these are going off the back or off the side. So what are we looking at? Well, the graph here on the left, the spiral graph on the left, we're looking down on top of our solar system. Okay? The yellow ball there is Earth. Okay? The green is Venus. The orange is Mars. The red one out here is, the red one's Mars. The orange one's Mercury. That's what I meant to say. Now, that green box, that's the Parker SP satellite. That's the one that gets real close to the sun. And if you guys watch this as it goes through in the next few days, you're going to see as it'll make a little turn here and start going back towards the sun. And then you're going to see it like get really, really fast. It gets real fast as it gets close to the sun. It's whipping around the sun is what it's doing. And, they're starting to catch some pretty good stuff on this. And we kind of I talked about this yesterday. Sometimes I think they know when things are going to happen and they try to position that thing where it's at. Now, I know it's already been set into motion where it's going to be at, but I have a hard time thinking that they don't have any control over what it's going to do. I do think that they do. So, anyway, we'll move on from that. But you can see that CME. It was not a big one, okay, but it was a CME, and it was almost directly off the back. So much so that even on seeds, and I'll take you guys over here to show you, that we can barely see it because it went directly just straight to our back. So let's go over and check that out. Okay, guys, this is the 14th. This is LASCO C2. It's on the SOHO Observatory. And that's the satellite that sits out in front of the Earth. Okay, so here's Earth. The satellite's here, and it's looking at the sun. It's our point of view. And I say that every video. I know I do, but I do that for the new people, okay, guys? Doesn't take me but a second to say that. But as you can see, the black occulter, which is there to block the main light of the sun so we could even get a capture, it blocks anything that we can see that's coming right at this satellite. Plus, it will block about anything that's going straight off the back, like in a straight line. So if the satellite's here, and you draw a straight line, anything on that line, if it's three-dimensional, we're not going to be able to see because this occulter is there and it's blocking it. And that's exactly what we're experiencing with this CME. We can't hardly see it. We can see it kind of coming off the side here just a little bit because it didn't go directly off the back, but it was pretty close. If you want to get kind of two-dimensional here and kind of think with me here a little bit, it's kind of blowing like this. Okay? That's why we get to see a little bit of it here. Now we're going to go to the 15th, and we can see just a little bit more, just a touch. Okay, you seeing how it's getting a little bit bright there? That is that CME. Okay, it was not nothing big, and it's not coming at us. So, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It did happen. So what we're talking about there is it's showing that the sun is still waking up. It is waking up. We are getting CMEs every day, if not that, every other day. You go back 2 months and look, guys, we were getting CMEs maybe 2 or 3 times a month. Okay, maybe 4 at the most. And that's typical for solar minimum. But this is telling me, not only because we're seeing sunspots now, but this right here is another, marker we can go to say, hey, we're not in solar minimum anymore. We're going to start picking up here, guys. And eventually that Earth-facing effect that we've been talking about, that when things come, like the sunspots become Earth-facing, they start deteriorating, they get weaker. And then when they get past Earth-facing, they start getting stronger again. Well, we just had a sunspot that rotated through that did not do that. It stayed strong the whole time. Now, we got lucky and it didn't blow any flares directly at us, not any big ones, okay? But we're not always going to be that lucky. And I have to say, guys, anybody that's new to any of this research or any of this kind of scientific stuff that we're talking about here as far as space weather, if you guys are new to this, that we have to understand that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we're going to get hit with a big flare or a big CME. It will happen. And we will see it. Now, it depends on, how well we fend it off is what's going to be the issue. And timing's going to be a big deal, okay? Now, I'm not saying this is catastrophic because it may not be. But there is chances there that if we get a huge flare, that none of us has ever been alive to see one that big that I'm talking about here, we could see some really, really messed up stuff. Okay? And I'm only saying this so people are more aware of what's going on, because if you look at this world geopolitically, if you look at all the civil unrest, if you look at all the global illness stuff that's going on, if you guys factor all that in, and then you start factoring this in, what would happen? What do you guys think would happen? And I'm not, again, this is not gloom and doom. This is just me being real. Okay? What do you guys think would happen if you guys woke up tomorrow and we had a huge solar flare that just hit our Earth and it knocked every freaking power out that we had? What do you think would happen? Okay? Sit back and think about that for about 2 seconds. And I guarantee you guys are going to come to the same conclusion I've came to. We wouldn't want to be around for that, because it would become mass chaos. They've already got us locked in our houses for the most part. Now, we're starting to get released out and all that. I get it. But if you guys look around, it's almost like they're trying to do the exact opposite already again. We're talking about these spikes here and there, with this illness. And we're talking about multiple civil unrest across the country. It seems like every day now we get up and we look. And I'm not even going to get into that discussion, because that's not what this channel does. Okay? And I'm not going to talk about that. But the fact of the matter is, there is civil unrest, there is global illness going on, and if we factor in the chance of us having something crazy happen from space, that maybe we have a huge earthquake, or maybe we have this or that. What if all that happens at once during all this, guys? You're not going to have the chance to come to, Wages World YouTube channel at that point. So I'm saying all this so you guys can get yourself prepared a little bit in case something does happen. I'm not saying rush out and buy all the toilet paper. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just be aware. That's half the battle, guys. Got to be aware. If you're not aware, then you won't make good decisions when all the bad stuff happens. And this stuff may not even happen for years, or happen even while we're alive, okay? Now, I tend to think that we're going to see something happen, here in the next, 20, 30 years, if not before that. That's what I believe. That's my opinion. But still, that's not etched in stone. I can't say for 100%. All I know is that I'm trying to prepare as much as I can to the level I think where I'm comfortable, and I think everybody should do the same. You don't have to do what I'm doing or what Joe Blow's doing. Do what you think is right. That's where you need to be. Don't let nobody sway you one way or the other. If you think you need to do something, go do it. If you think you don't need to do something somebody's telling you to go do, don't do it. Trust yourself, trust your gut, and go with that. That's what I always say. Okay? And it always works out. At the end, it will work out as best as it possibly can. So, I am going to leave that with you here. Well, we'll go look at Stereo A. Okay, guys, this is Stereo A. Now, you get to see a little bit of that CME here. Okay, see how it's blowing off to the left, right? There. See that white? See how it blew off? That was that CME. This is, to give you perspective, again, the Earth would be here, and the satellite that we're looking from is here. Alright? So, you can kind of see it blow off a little bit there. You can actually see it better on the red view on this one, which is kind of true almost every time nowadays on Stereo A. So the Earth would be here, the satellite's here, and you're going to see it pop off right here. Okay? See how it got bright and then moved? Now I know it's hard to see on these particular, on Stereo A, because it is highly pixelated. It's not a very good definition picture. So, or time lapse I should say. Slideshow type of thing. But yeah, so there's that. Now, alright guys, hold on just a second. Okay guys, now I'll give you a little recap guys, okay? That's what I'm going to try to do about every video. The human thing, that it's going to stay that way. As far as, the CME stuff, eventually all those CMEs we're seeing blowing off all over the sun, guys, it's going to eventually, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I mean, this just mathematically. And like I said, I would challenge you guys to go back and look at the numbers of CMEs we were seeing 2 months ago versus now. And it's going to surprise you. It really will. We're looking at seeing CMEs probably every other day, if not every day right now. They're small and hardly very few of them come our direction. But at the same time, they're still happening. So we have to understand that at any time, the sun can do a big one. And if we're, unlucky enough, eventually that big one will be coming towards us. And again, I don't say any of that to be gloom and doom. I say all that so you guys can prepare the way you think you need to prepare. Not what I'm telling you or what anybody else is telling you. You trust yourself. That will work out the best for you. Okay? Yes, listen to advice, which is what I do. I also try to give the advice that I think is relevant. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you think is right for you and yours. Don't let anybody else sway you in that. If you think it's a way that you're supposed to be doing something, you're not going to be comfortable in your own mind or have any kind of peace or rest unless you get to that point and you do what you think is right. So, I'll leave you with that, guys. God bless. Yeshua saves, and you can drink this Kool-Aid.